Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to, cut through the noise and give you the insights you really need to be well informed. Today, we're tackling something that stirs up a lot. Um, Strong emotions, from curiosity maybe to real fear. It's this idea that Islam could somehow take over the world.
It's a heavy concept, right?
Yeah.
Loaded with history, modern anxieties, and let's be honest, often a lot of misunderstanding. Our mission today, to really unpack this idea, separate fact from fiction, help you get a clearer, more nuanced view on a very complex subject.
And that's so important because Islam, well, it's not just a religion in isolation. It's this huge global presence. We're talking about the world's second largest faith here,
Yeah.
over 1.9 billion followers.
Yeah, that's roughly, 24% of the global population?
Yeah.
And Muslims are living in pretty much every country on Earth. So this huge visibility, this growth, it naturally fuels speculation and, yeah, those fears you mentioned. So today, we'll look carefully at where these concerns come from, the realities of Islam's global presence, the media's role, which is often skewed, and crucially, the evidence of harmony that challenges this whole idea of Islam as some kind of dominating force.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The roots of this concern. Where does this fear of an Islamic takeover really come from? Especially thinking about, say, Western societies after 9/11. You mentioned it gained traction then.
It definitely did gain a lot of traction, though the seeds were perhaps there earlier. It's really tied up with certain historical narratives, geopolitical tensions, and definitely media stereotypes. Think about the terrible attacks by extremist groups like Al-Qaeda or ISIS.
Right.
Now, these groups represent an incredibly tiny fraction. We're talking less than 0.01% of all Muslims, a minuscule amount.
Less than 0.01. That's staggering.
It is. But their actions have had this massive, disproportionate impact on public perception, creating this view that Islam itself is somehow inherently aggressive or expansionist. It's a really skewed lens. Damaging, frankly.
That disconnect is huge. But then you also hear about Islam being the fastest growing religion. Doesn't that demographic growth feed into the narrative for some people, like proof of expansion?
That's a really crucial question because, yes, demographically, Islam is the fastest growing major religion globally. Pew Research Center projects it could nearly equal Christianity's share of the global population by around 2050.
By 2050, okay.
Yeah. And this growth, it's mostly driven by higher birth rates in Muslim-majority countries and also by conversions. Take Europe, for example. The Muslim population there was about, 5.9% in 2020. Projections suggest it could be between 10% and maybe 15% by 2050.
So the numbers are definitely growing.
They are. But here's the key thing. This isn't some coordinated strategy for domination. It's largely natural demographic shifts. It reflects birth rates, individual choices about faith, family sizes. It's organic.
Organic growth, not a planned takeover.
Exactly. And misunderstandings just add fuel to the fire. Like people might see a specific cultural practice in one region, say a particular style of dress, and assume it's a universal religious rule demanded everywhere. It's often not.
Okay, so if it's organic growth and the extremism is such a tiny minority, why does the takeover idea stick so firmly in some minds? You mentioned the media earlier.
Yes, the media's role here is absolutely pivotal, huge. Often, sensationalism gets prioritized over, nuance. And conflict sells, unfortunately.
Right.
So news outlets tend to focus heavily on terrorism, political unrest, maybe cultural clashes when they report on Islam or Muslims. And this creates this embedded association, linking Islam primarily with extremism, not with the peaceful, everyday faith practiced by billions.
And there's data to back that up, isn't there? I remember seeing a study.
There is, a striking one for the University of Cambridge back in 2019. It found that 78%, nearly 4 out of 5 news stories about Muslims in Western media had a negative framing, emphasizing violence or cultural difference.
78%, that paints a picture right there. You can see how that distortion happens.
Exactly. And what gets missed? The enormous positive contributions. Think about Muslim healthcare workers during the pandemic, heroes on the front lines, or the centuries of contributions from Muslim scholars to science, math, culture, algebra, optics, so much more.
Things we take for granted often.
Precisely. This selective reporting, it builds mistrust. It reinforces stereotypes. And, social media like X, it can be a double-edged sword. It can amplify bias like wildfire with viral posts. But it also gives Muslims a platform to push back directly, to share their own stories, their own realities, and counter those stereotypes.
So we've looked at the outside view of the media lens. Let's shift inwards now. What about Islam itself at its core? What are the actual foundational teachings when it comes to living alongside others?
All right, let's get to the heart of it. Fundamentally, Islam emphasizes compassion, justice, and really respect for everyone, regardless of their background or belief. The Quran, which is Islam's holy text, repeatedly calls for kindness. There's a very well-known verse, Surah Al-Kafirun, chapter 109, verse 6. It says, "To you be your religion, and to me my religion."
To you be your religion and to me mine. That sounds like mutual respect. Live and let live, almost.
It absolutely promotes that spirit, acceptance of difference.
How else do we see these values play out? You mentioned compassion, community.
Well, look at the Prophet Muhammad's teachings, the Hadith. These are sayings and actions that guide Muslims. There's a famous one. None of you truly believes until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself.
That goes beyond just tolerance, doesn't it? That's empathy.
It's about active goodwill. And practices like zakat, that's obligatory charity, they underscore this focus on community welfare, on supporting those less fortunate. Think historically, too. The Islamic Golden Age, 8th, 13th centuries roughly, cities like Baghdad, Cordoba hubs of learning where Muslim scholars work side by side with Jewish and Christian intellectuals, advancing science, philosophy, medicine together.
A history of collaboration, not just conflict.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And bring it to today. Look at Indonesia,
Yeah.
biggest Muslim population in the world, 229 million. It's a vibrant example of peaceful coexistence. You see Muslims, Christians, Hindus participating in shared cultural festivals. That really challenges the whole expansionist force idea, doesn't it?
It really does. And that collaboration you mentioned, it leads perfectly into interfaith cooperation today. If the goal was a takeover, you probably wouldn't see so much effort going into building bridges with other faiths, right?
Precisely. Interfaith dialogue is, well, it's booming globally, actually. And it stands as a strong counter-narrative. There are some major initiatives. Think of the Abrahamic Faiths Peace Summit in Abu Dhabi 2019. It brought together top Muslim, Christian, and Jewish leaders. And out of that came the document on human fraternity.
The one signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar.
That's the one, Pope Francis and Grand Imam Ahmed Al-Tayyib. A powerful statement emphasizing shared human values, compassion across faiths.
That's high-level stuff. Impressive. But does it filter down? Does it make a difference on the ground in communities?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where you see the real-world impact. There are countless grassroots efforts, things like Malaysia's Harmony Walk or Jordan's Amman Message. These initiatives show Muslims actively working with people of other faiths, building understanding locally.
Okay, so community-level action.
And tangible results, too. Look at the Philippines, in Mindanao. The Mindanao Peacebuilding Institute trains community leaders, Muslims and Christians, to bridge divides. The reports show a significant drop, around 40%, in religiously motivated violence there since about 2015.
40% decrease. That's huge. That's real impact from bridge building.
It's proof it works. It's not just talk. And globally, you have organizations like the United Religions Initiative connecting diverse faith communities for joint projects. Education, environmental work, social justice, working together. That signals partnership, definitely not domination.
That idea of partnership really highlights another key point. The sheer diversity within Islam. The takeover idea often paints Islam as this single unified bloc. But that's just not accurate, is it?
Not at all. It's incredibly diverse. Islam is not a monolith. Never has been. You have everything from, say, the mystical Sufi traditions in West Africa to really progressive mosques emerging in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Islamic practice varies enormously.
So that internal variety itself kind of undermines the idea of some unified takeover plan.
Completely. Look at Indonesia again. The Nahdlatul Ulama, a huge organization, promotes Islam Nusantara. That's a form of Islam that actively embraces local Indonesian culture and diversity. It's pluralistic by nature. Or think of Turkey, with its secular government alongside a Muslim identity. Or Morocco, where the king actively champions moderate Islam.
It adapts, which brings us to common misconceptions, things like the term jihad, or cultural practices like dress codes. These sometimes get twisted and fuel fears. How should we understand those?
Right, addressing those directly is important. Jihad, for instance, it's so often equated simply with violence or holy war. But its primary meaning in Islam is actually about struggle or striving, mostly a personal, spiritual struggle for self-improvement, for justice.
So more internal than external.
Predominantly, yes. Armed conflict is considered a very specific, highly regulated exception, not the main definition. And cultural practices, dress codes, gender segregation, sometimes these aren't universal mandates dictated by the religion for all time and places. They vary hugely by region, by interpretation. They often reflect local customs just as much as religious views.
So context is everything.
Absolutely. And that's why education is so key to dispelling these myths. There are great organizations doing this work, like the Islamic Networks Group in the U.S. or the Al-Nur Institute in the U.K., running workshops, providing accurate info, and including the historical contributions of Muslim civilizations in math, science, literature, and school curricula. That fosters respect and a much more balanced view.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. The roots of fear, media, core teachings, cooperation, diversity. But challenges remain, right?
Oh,
Islamophobia is still a serious issue. I think I saw a stat, something like over half of Europeans worried about Muslim immigration back in 2018.
yes, that Eurobarometer survey found 55% express concern. So Islamophobia, fueled by various factors, is definitely still a major challenge. And we also have to acknowledge internal issues within some Muslim-majority countries, sectarian divides, governance problems. These can sometimes overshadow the positive efforts.
So given those ongoing challenges, what's the path forward? How do we keep building bridges?
Well, it really comes down to amplifying those moderate, collaborative voices we've talked about, giving them more platform. Governments can help by actively supporting interfaith initiatives, funding programs like Qatar's Doha International Center for Interfaith Dialogue, promoting understanding globally.
So top-down support helps.
It does. But individual action is also incredibly powerful. Each person listening. You can make an effort to learn more, maybe attend a cultural event, support inclusive organizations, even just following diverse Muslim voices, online scholars, activists, artists, everyday people.
Small actions, big impact.
Exactly. They broaden understanding bit by bit. They challenge our own biases. They help create a less fearful, more informed society.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it feels pretty clear. This idea of Islam taking over the world, it seems much more rooted in fear, media narratives, and frankly, misunderstanding than in reality.
I think the evidence strongly suggests that. When you look closely, Islam's core teachings, compassion, justice, respect, they resonate with universal human values. Its global presence is defined by incredible diversity and, in so many places, a real commitment to coexistence, not domination. The rise of interfaith dialogue, from global summits down to local community projects, that really shows a dedication to building bridges, not walls.
It makes you think. The real question isn't whether Islam will dominate, but maybe. How can we all work together across faiths and cultures to build a world where faith actually unites us rather than dividing us? Something to reflect on. If you found this deep dive valuable, and we hope you did, you can find loads more incredible insights like this over at Mind Expansion Daily. Check it out. And please be sure to like and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily right here. It helps us keep bringing you these well-informed deep dives into complex topics. We genuinely love to hear your thoughts too. Leave a comment below. Do you agree or disagree with our summary of this topic? Let us know. Oh, and tell us where you're tuning in from. We're really keen to increase our reach worldwide and hear from listeners everywhere. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.